Hi. Okay. Just post the link. Hola. Okay. My fellow author will be joining me soon, Latoya. Okay. I don't know why my background is not working. There we go. Hold on one. I think you're muted, Toya.
Hold on. Can you
There
hear
you go.
me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Oh gosh,
Girl.
this this was unexpected as far as we have
Yes.
it from IG to YouTube, but I'm glad that we made it happen.
We here. we had to detour a little bit.
Yeah,
But
definitely. So I hope that our followers on the other platforms that they come on over to this side. But
oh,
it's
I
gonna be saved
posted.
anyways, Diamond, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can get started. So I don't think there's anybody in here now, but we'll just start anyways. So I'm excited to be here, Diamond, doing this collaboration with you. Um and so today we're just gonna talk about uh all things love, celebrating love, not just in fiction, right? Because both of our books are
Hey.
fiction. But you can hear me, Diamond?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought this was an interruption. Not just celebrating all things in fiction, but all things in life. So I guess we can get started in regards to us both introducing our latest books. You want to go first?
Yeah, girl, I'll go.
Okay.
All right. So, y'all, this book here, At an Impasse, I launched this in November. And it took a few years for me to get there because I really wanted to capture kind of what it is to become as a woman. So in this story here, I'll just give like a quick summary. We have the main character, Diani, nicknamed Dee Dee, and she moves down south. She's like, I'm gonna make a new name for myself, a new life for myself. I don't need love. Like she just does not believe in love at all. But it finds her, kind of in multiple places. So unexpected for her. Like she's thinking, I'm gonna just be this single woman. I'm just gonna really discover myself. But she finds herself in a situation, kind of a love triangle. And she's also trying to escape the wounds from her mom. So she kind of carries that with her heavily. Like she's seen her parents' marriage. Their marriage isn't too great. She doesn't want that, but somehow, some way, history starts repeating itself. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I don't want to go too much into the story, but yeah, there's a lot of drama, family drama, love triangle, and some self-discovery, and at an impasse.
Okay. And I can second that, y'all, because I do have the book, and the book was
Yes.
everything. But I'll go into that once I start with asking you questions and really like dissecting
Yes.
a lot of the things that you said talked about that was in the book.
Mhm.
So I have a three-part series consisting of three books. It's a Time to Love series. The first book is It's Your Time, which is the book that we're going to be discussing today. And I just wanted to capture in this book all of the messy, beautiful, and exciting things about love, whether it's with oneself or others. It is a three-part, so this is the second. Is it our time? And this is the third one. This time's forever. So I'll talk a little bit about book one, which is the main character Tahiri that this book is based upon, and she talks about it's like a journey, right? So it's a journey where she's talking about from jump what was happening in her love life, and then it transitions all the way till I don't want to say she got it right, but it transitions to the part of the go through the phases of what she did to actually improve what's the word? Improve, I'll just say improve her self-worth, right? So
Yes.
this book is about love within oneself, and then also how that spills over to how you're able to love others. So that's the gist
Mhm.
of it, with
And
this
I
book.
have my copy over here too. And y'all, when I tell you, there were moments I'm like, okay, reading the love story, I'm loving it. And then I'm not going to spoil it for nobody. But girl,
Right.
you had some moments in here where I was like, hold up, I didn't see that coming.
Yes. Yes. And I'm so glad that the book was relatable to you, but we'll get
Yes.
into that
Yeah,
later on in the
absolutely.
line. So okay, so let's start with you, Diamond. Okay, I have so many questions, but I know we only have an hour, so I just want
Yes.
to narrow it down. So first things first. Um, with so I'm gonna kind of go a little backwards here and then go forward. So first thing first, we talked a little bit about your book, as far as the book title and the cover, right?
Right.
And I had disclosed to you that after reading the book, I felt like this book cover was perfect and the book
Mhm.
title was perfect, right? Because it correlates so much with the main character, Dee Dee. So I guess
Yes.
if you can just talk to us a little bit about how you even, decided on this book cover, and then in particular just the book title.
Yes. All right. So the story title kind of like came about on its own. So at one point in time, like I would just see like people are at an impasse, or like I would see the word impasse. And before I got to this title, I was going to name it At a Crossroads, but it
Mm,
just didn't feel like it fit right. So I was
mm,
like, okay. When I thought about At an Impasse, I'm like, okay, there are several instances in this book where she's just going through things. And I felt like with At an Impasse, that title, it kind of like drew upon the part of where she's asking herself questions. She's constantly having to come at an impasse, literally, of like trying to make decisions for herself. What is in her best interest? So I felt like that kind of tied the story all together. I didn't want the title to be too overly complicated or too long, because as you know, Toya, like reading it, some of this stuff in here is kind of complex. So that also brought me to the cover of the book. So in the book as well, there's a theme with Dee Dee's grandfather, where a part of his love story with his wife and her looking at that is he would give her grandmother lavender flowers. Like that was kind of like his signal of like his reminder to her, like, I love you, like his labor of love to her. And so like I wanted the title like to capture like the whole story and the theme, not be overcomplicated. And then the book cover, I wanted to tie into that piece there, kind of like where Dee Dee, she's striving, she wants that type of love that her grandparents have, but it's not easily for her to attain it. So it was kind of like, we kind of talked about this on the back end too. Like I didn't want something
mm.
overly distracting. I didn't want anything overly complicated, but I still wanted it to tie to the story and some themes that people will see when they're reading it.
And you know what? Like I said, with your the because even
Mhm.
though your story had a lot of complexities in it, Dee
Right.
Dee is such like she's such a simple character. Like what you see
Yes.
with Dee Dee is what you get. So I feel like this was the perfect title and the perfect book cover, and I feel like it correlates with the main character like spot
Yes.
on. If you had a book cover that had a whole lot going on, I feel like it
Mhm.
wouldn't really tie into like Dee Dee and everything that she's
Yes.
experienced. You know what I mean? So I feel like this was perfect. I feel like there's no other book title or book cover that would do like
No.
this. Like you nailed it.
Yeah, I kept
All
going
right.
back to it.
Yeah. And so my next question, Diamond, is what has been your journey,
Mm.
your personal journey around love? Because again, I don't want to,
Yes.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone else, right? but the
Right.
main character Dee Dee has a lot of different experiences in love within the book. So when I was reading this, and I told you I'm always curious in regards to what the authors like, what their headspace was in when they was
Right.
writing this, right? So I just wanted to know, like, what's your personal journey surrounded when it comes to love?
Yes. So, girl, I've gone through the trenches in my love life
I
for
feel like
years.
everyone.
Yes. So when I started writing this book, right? So in the beginning of the book, so I don't want to spoil it, but like I said, Dee Dee, she's like kind of against love. And so I kind of was journeying through that as well myself, where I had been in a long-term relationship and I wanted to make it work so desperately. And this person I was with, he was just a very complex person. Like, there's a song by Rihanna called Complicated. That song was on replay constantly. It was a complicated love story. And so after that relationship ended, I was like, I'm over love. I'm through with love. I don't want nothing to do with it because I was tired of being heartbroken so much. And I'm like, dang, like it's heartbreak after heartbreak. After that relationship ended, I got into like a little situationship. That didn't work out either. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I wanted to tie elements of that into her story of kind of like feeling like, I've already gone through so much heartbreak in my life. I don't want to put myself out there again. And then finally, when she is starting to open up, okay, things aren't going the way that I would have planned it. Things are not as simple. It's not like what people say with their love stories, like, oh, it's just fairy tale and everything's amazing. Like there were still, even in my relationship today now, it's a beautiful relationship, but there are still moments where you have to ask yourself certain questions. There's still things and different obstacles you still face. And so I wanted to capture that in the story. Like, even when you start to open your heart up and let that guard down, no love story is going to be perfect. People sell that dream and it's just not reality.
I'm glad you actually mentioned that because that actually resonated with me because I feel like people think and I touch on this in my book as well with the main
Yes.
character Tahira. But I think people think like when you meet the person that's for you, right? That
Right.
it's just perfect. And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, no one relationship is perfect. You know what I
No.
mean? It's gonna have its ebbs and flows and so forth. And I think it's important to put that out there so people don't think that, okay, just because now you've entered this healthy relationship, that's it. The
Yes.
work is done, right? The work is ongoing as far as with the love portion of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was pivotal in you mentioning that and then seeing that play out in this story with Dee Dee.
Yes.
Because this story I feel like is definitely relatable to all.
Yes, girl. Like, and that's what I thought too. Like, in my relationship, I'm like, okay, I'm finally in a healthy relationship. I'm thinking it's gonna be simple, right? Like, oh, I'm getting a fairy tale ending. And it's like, oh no, no, no. You still have work to do in this relationship and you still have work to do on yourself. And that's what Didi
Absolutely.
had to realize too. Like, oh, I still have some work to do. Even though things seemed to line up for her and her relationship, it was never gonna be perfect. And that's what she was chasing after.
Absolutely.
So
I
yeah,
agree. I
yeah.
agree. Um, Now, speaking of Dee Dee, so three
Mhm.
characters in the book, right? So Dee Dee, and
Yes.
then her sister, and I
Yes.
don't, what was her sister's name again? I don't remember.
Trinity. Trin
Yes,
or
yes,
Trinity. Yeah.
yes. And then her mother, Doris.
Yes.
So in the book, right, it was interesting, and I wanted to ask you this even when we spoke, right? You know, when I was
Mhm.
giving you feedback on the book after reading it, my thoughts. So I found it so fascinating that
Mm.
each of them had a different relationship, right? When it came to love, right?
Yes.
Their experiences. And now Dee Dee and her sister, same parents, grew up in the
Hmm.
same household, right? But their outlook on love is different, right?
Completely.
Within others and themselves. So I wanted to ask you, was that something that you did? And the mother, right? Her relationship with them.
Yes.
They different lenses that
Hmm.
they saw love through. And so I wanted to ask you, was it intentional that you made Dee Dee to where
Hmm.
you can see that her relationship when it comes to her self love was at 100, her love for others, but then her sister and her mother, not so much. It was
Mhm.
totally different. Was that something that was intentional, or that just happened with you writing a book, that it just played out that way?
So when I was first, like my first draft of this book, right? So we have, like you said, Dee Dee, the character where she has that self love, that self worth, and then her sister Trinity, like you said, not so much. She was kind of insecure, and then her mom, she still had, she was still operating under the mindset, kind of like back in the day, like no matter
Hmm.
what, I'm staying married. Like I don't care
Right,
what my husband do to me, I'm staying married. That's just what they believed in. So I
right.
wanted to show that, like generationally, how we've kind of evolved from that, a lot of us as women, versus back in the day in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they like, I'm gonna stand by my man. No matter what
Hmm.
he do. If he had 5 kids on me, I'm still gonna be here. I'm not leaving. Versus, okay, Dee Dee, she saw that and she's like, oh, no, no, no. I know I deserve better than that. I've seen my mother cry. I've seen my mom in vulnerable spaces. So I don't want to put myself through that. But then with Trinity, it was kind of like, at first I was gonna make her a strong character like Dee Dee. I was like, okay, she's gonna have a strong self-worth, strong self-love within herself. And then it started kind of writing itself, where it's like we all know that person or have been that person, where we are like that hopeless romantic person, where I just want love even at the expense of my own happiness. And so I wanted Dee Dee and Trinity to kind of like contrast in that area, because you kind of have that part where Dee Dee, where she has that high value in herself, and she doesn't understand or relate to Trinity, as far as, okay, how are you putting up with this stuff with men? Like, why don't you go for someone that's a better person, a better fit for you? She wasn't understanding that. So I wanted to like explore that disconnect and that tension it can create, like as women, as we kind of can judge one another and how we view love.
And I love that because it was interesting to see the each of their perspectives,
Hmm.
right? Because Dee Dee is like the type. There's a part in your book to where Trinity, it was like a domestic violence type thing, right? And
Yes.
then Dee Dee
Yes.
caught wind of that, and then she makes a statement, and she says, you shouldn't allow your daughter to see disrespect, not even disrespect from her own father, right? Like that shouldn't be
Yes.
tolerated. But Trinity's thing was, at the end of the day, she understands, and I feel like she was receptive to what Dee Dee was saying, but at the same time she's like, but that's my father, that's my child's father, right?
Yes.
So she saw it somewhat similar to what the how the mother saw it. Well, this is my husband, and I'm going to stick
Mhm.
beside him, because even throughout the entire altercation, the mother still gave the Trinity's husband, tried to cut
Mhm.
him some slack, like, okay, he their first time getting married, he's gonna get it
Yes.
together. Like, let's cut him some slack. He's trying. I thought, he's gonna get help and so forth like that. So I'm glad it just happened like that, because I
Right.
felt like seeing the different perspectives and how other people see things when it comes to
Mhm.
that love. Like, I was glad I got to see that, because sometimes you can only see things right from your view on how you see it. And it was good to see it from what other, even if it didn't make sense to Dee Dee, to see
Yes.
it from other perspectives. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciated that.
Yeah, because I even
Um,
had like feedback from the book kind of on that dynamic,
mhm,
where there was a comment about basically kind of like Dee Dee could come off as judgmental sometimes in the book.
mhm, mhm,
And I
mhm.
was like, is it really judgmental if you just have such high values and standards for yourself and to
Yes,
uphold that? So for
yes,
some people, it's like, oh, this is judgmental. And it's like, for some people, no, this is just how they just choose to love themselves. Like, with back to the
absolutely.
self love. Yeah.
Absolutely. I caught on to that too, because as I was reading, I was like, is Dee Dee really judgmental, or is it that
Hmm.
Dee Dee just has this, high self-worth for herself, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And that self-respect, and that she's not going to settle for someone, she's not going to tolerate that disrespect. So as the
Hmm.
story went on, I saw it as, yeah, no, Dee Dee is not judgmental at all. Like, and
Wow.
what you see with Dee Dee is what you get. She's not gonna sugarcoat it. If it's right,
Right.
it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. So I feel like with Dee Dee, there's no middle ground. It's either black or white with her.
Hmm.
Unlike the other characters, the mother and Trinity and the mother Doris, it was like they kind of like bordered on, like they, you know what I mean? So it could
Yes.
go either way. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So
Yeah.
I definitely I share those same sentiments. As far as yeah, Dee Dee wasn't judgmental. She just didn't tolerate the BS.
She didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another thing, Diamond. When I was reading the book, there were so many times that because of everything that Dee Dee experienced, as far as the relationships that she was in and so forth, I really thought, I said, okay, where's Diamond going with this? I really thought that her self-worth and her self-worth, I thought it was going to shift as her experiences shifted.
Mm.
Right? So with
Right.
Robbie, with her, you know, her husband and so forth, I thought as things happened to her, and a lot of things did happen to her, right? Different
Yes.
experiences. I thought her how she viewed herself was going to shift, and she never wavered. How she felt her self-worth, her self-esteem,
Mhm.
her self-respect, her self-love for her, it never wavered. So again, that's another question that I have. Was that something that was intentional, or that the story just took that turn as you was writing and it just played
Mhm.
out that way?
I would say I initially was going to kind of take the character, kind of like what you said, where it would ebb and flow with her self worth. And then the story just kind of like took legs of its own. Like she just kind of
Okay.
just evolved into that person of like, okay, from the beginning, like you said, she already kind of had her standards of who she was going to be.
Right.
And that wasn't going to change for her.
Okay.
But it's like to our point, like with this live too, like with self healing and self love, like that's what that looks like. And I wanted to show what that looks like when we really truly do the work for ourselves. No man, no woman, nobody is going to be able to knock us down in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So that leads me to the next question. Um, so how did you define the boundary between romantic love and
Hmm.
self-preservation in this story? I read the story, right? So I
Right.
know this, how you define the boundaries between romantic love and self preservation. But for the readers, just like how did you define those boundaries? And those boundaries were really defined in this
Girl,
story.
yes. So I would say one thing that kind of like sticks out for me with that, like you have another character in the book, Vanessa.
Right.
And there's one point in the book where she's kind of pushing Dee Dee, like, and it actually kind of comes up a couple times with other characters. They're kind of pushing Dee Dee, like, okay, you need to be in a relationship. You need to give this person a chance. And she has to evaluate for herself, is this going to be good for me or is this not? Am I feeling this or am I not? And I know when we had a conversation on the back end too, where you had brought up kind of like her discernment. I think that was a big piece in the story too, of kind of like drawing that line between self-preservation and the romantic love. If she was really using her discernment to know, is this the right fit for me? Is this the right situation for me? Or is this going to be something that is going to be toxic for me? And if so, I ain't got time for it.
She definitely didn't have time for it. And like I
Mm.
said, there was a lot of things that Dee Dee experienced. And I feel like her discernment is the reason as to why she was able to choose the
Mhm.
person for her and not choose another suitor, right? The reason
Yes.
why she was even protected in the story, right? From harm and things of that nature because of her discernment. So that
Yes.
is definitely something that I noticed throughout the story. And that also resonated with me as well, because I feel like discernment, as- when you are, you know, seeking a relationship and so forth, discernment, whether you're seeking a
Mm.
relationship with someone else or just as far as you doing the self-worth yourself, discernment
Yes.
is definitely key. You have to have that in any relationship. So I love how that played out in the story as well, because Dee Dee definitely used discernment. Um, okay, so I have another question. Was this, well, okay, before I get, no, okay, I'm just gonna go with this.
Okay.
Was was this a love story, or was
Mm,
this up for interpretation? For me, before you answer, I
yeah.
feel like it was a love story. And I feel like it was a love story in so many ways, but I don't want to speak that because, again, I don't want to spoil it. But for
Yeah.
me, I interpreted it as a love story. But when I spoke to someone else about your book, they didn't
Hmm.
see it as a love story. So, were you
Okay.
writing this book with the intention on it being a love story, or this was just up for one's interpretation on whether they saw it as a love story or not?
I love this question. So I love this one, Toya. Um, so in short, I feel like it was up to interpretation. When people asked me when I did a book fair months ago, and they were kind of recruiting for the next one, it was a love book fair, and they asked me, "Is this a love story?" And I was kind of hesitant. But then when I went back and thought about it, I was like, well, this is a non traditional love story in my eyes, where it's a love story between oneself, not
Mm,
necessarily like a romantic one where we hear, like, the traditional love stories or whatever. I look at it as a non traditional love story because there's so much love in this book and it looks different. It's not just about the marriage. It's not just about the relationship, romantic relationship. It was about friendship. It was about love growing between family members. And most importantly, like I said, self love. So I feel like at the end of the day, it is up to interpretation. But I do feel like initially I was trying to write a love story, but I kind of felt like it kind of weaved itself into a love story for oneself, not necessarily romance, if that
I
makes
love that.
sense.
I love that. And I never heard of like I never thought about it being a non-traditional love story.
Hmm.
In my mind, I was just like, oh, this is a love story. And I saw it as a love
Yes.
story from the beginning. And then when it got to the end, I said, oh, this is a love story. Like that just solidified things for me. So I never looked at it in that way as a non-traditional love story. But I understand why you're phrasing it that way, saying that this
Yeah.
is a non-traditional love story. And I guess it is up for interpretation because, like I said, I saw
Mhm.
it as a love story, but the other person was like, I don't see it as, you know, a
As
love
a
story. So that was different for me
yes.
because I think this is the first book that I've read to where I understand why you say it's non-traditional, and in my mind I was just like, oh, this is a love story because, like you said, whether this is love of oneself or love for others, with a family member, a friend, a partner,
Mhm.
etc. So yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so Diamond, so how can your readers apply the lessons of love from your book to their
Ooh.
own lives?
Oh. I like this question too, girl. These some good questions. Um, I would say I'm gonna say it like this. Think of yourself and what's good for you. Um, a lot of people today are in very toxic situations. I've been there. And for me to get out of that, I had to recognize and realize, okay, you're putting yourself in a situation where you can't show up as your best self because you're subjecting yourself to toxicity. You're subjecting yourself and not you're not using your heart in the right way. So I would say apply the self-love portion and the love story in this book in a way where you start to kind of think differently and shift your mindset, and realize that the ultimate love story is with yourself and not necessarily with another person. It'll come naturally, but it'll only be healthy and come naturally if you start to do the work on yourself first and choose yourself first.
I love that. And I think that played out in your book as well, as far as I feel like once you have that foundation of
Mhm.
self-love, it gets easier to be able to,
Yes.
love others, love someone else. So I love how that
Yes.
played out in your book. Okay, I do have one more question, Diamond. Um, so for readers who don't know, right, At an Impasse is not your only book. You have
Oh,
another book, which is your first book, Emerald. So I
yes.
wanted to know, um, well, for one, can you touch a little bit about like what Emerald is, because that was your first book, and
Mhm.
also since At an Impasse is out and I think it's a great read, is there anything else in the works as far as another book, another novella, another maybe a series? Is there anything else in the works that you have that you're contemplating, or you're in, that's in the works right now?
Yes, and give me 1 second because I have my book Emerald over here.
Um,
All right, sorry, y'all. Intermission.
Okay, you know, I'm still
Yes,
waiting for my copy because Amazon damaged
Amazon. Why they do this to us?
the so
So this, yes, this is my first book, Emerald, and I wrote this from a place. Now, this character I relate to heavily because at one point I was like pursuing my passion of music, and obviously that didn't work out for me. But in this book here, the main character Emerald, it also kind of explores different things, such as like her trying to figure out like her identity, her trying to mend a broken relationship with her dad. So I can just give a quick summary there. She was born out of an affair, and her dad treated her as such. And so she kind of holds some resentment with him not being in her life, not showing up the way that he should have, whether she was born out of an affair or not. And then she holds some resentment with her mother as well. So that theme kind of shows back up from At an Impasse with the kind of broken bonds within parental relationships between parent and child. And so she has to kind of figure out for herself, is her chasing her dream worth the cost of what she's going to lose ultimately? And so I love that story. It's really dear to my heart. And as far as upcoming things, there's this book that I'm writing now, my third book. It is called A Thin Line. Yes, girl. It's called A Thin Line. The words have just been typing themselves. Every time I open up the laptop, they just flowing. So I hope to have that book out this year. It is going to be also kind of non-traditional. I hope to write like the traditional love story someday, but I don't think this one is going to be it. So you're going to see elements of kind of also self-discovery, also coming to self-love, but it'll come from the male's perspective. So we're going to be digging into that book as far as what do men go through, Black men, and kind of where, we always focus on the side of the woman in toxic marriages. So we're going to have a toxic wife in this book. And so he's going to have to draw that line. It's going to be a thin line. What do I do? Do I stay in a marriage because that's what my belief is, or do I leave this and choose myself? And so I'm excited about it, y'all. I've also talked to you kind of about a series potentially for At an Impasse. I kind of, when you read this book, y'all, it kind of ends on a crazy note. It opens the door for a third book, or not a third book,
absolutely,
for a second book. So I
absolutely.
think I'll be exploring that with the other characters. Dee Dee, Trent, and Vanessa would be the three characters in this book from their perspectives. But that one I'm not writing quite yet, but it's in the works, y'all.
I love that. I'm excited. And just to hear you, there's a lot of similarities with our books, because like how you said, the your next book, Thin Line, it's from
Yes.
a male perspective. And in my series, the second book, Is It Our Time, is from a male
Yes.
perspective.
Oh,
Tahira's perspective is in it because she's always the main character in in all three of the books. But the second book is from a male perspective, which is her love interest. So definitely a lot of similarities, and that was intentional of me doing that because, like you mentioned, I just feel like it's always this thing of where when you hear things, it's like, oh, you hear about, the man being a cheater and the man,
yes.
leaving babies on a woman, right? As opposed to, we know that there are a lot of good men, Black men out there.
Yes.
So it doesn't, they don't just represent, the cheaters and so forth
Yes.
like that. So I love that. I love that. And I'm excited to I can't wait till that is ready because
Girl,
I already
yes.
want to know more about that and dig into that. So yeah. So no, that's great. That's great. Congratulations that you're already on to the next. But again, add an impasse. If you haven't gotten it, get it. It's a great, great read.
Thank you, girl.
Thank
I
you,
love
Diamond.
that. Yes, we have comment here. Keep them coming. We gonna keep them coming. Okay.
Yeah.
I've read Emerald and love it. Yes, I love Emerald as well. I think we don't give credit to ourselves as authors. That first book, we're kind of really harsh about it. So, um, and I know maybe you can also relate to that, Toya, with that first book syndrome.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Worst critic, but my fave book, and I guess it's because it is the first book, and
Yeah,
I kind of felt like that it just like the first book, like ideas was just flowing. I didn't do a template or a time,
hmm
and I just literally wrote. That's how I did all of my books. I just wrote. So it was actually easy to write, but of course, because it was my first book, I wanted to make sure that everything was copacetic as far as it being relatable to readers, that they was able to actually pinpoint the messages that I put in there and so forth. So yeah, definitely when it comes to your first body of work, you're always going to be
hard
your
critic.
worst critic. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so I think it's time for us to transition into It's Your Time. I got it right here. Yes. And before you jump into kind of giving us a summary of what it's about, that synopsis, um, I love how you wrote this book and it really did feel like a diary.
Mm,
And you have that on the back of your book right
yeah.
there. It's a diary like novella. And I really appreciated that because a lot of stories you don't see that.
Right.
So that was unique for me. So kind of give us like a high level of what the book's about without spoiling, and kind of where you came from as far as what space you were in writing this book.
So okay, the space that I was in with writing this book, it was during COVID.
Okay.
Um, for those who know me, like I am a loner, I'm introverted. Yes, I enjoy the company of my family and friends, etc. But for the most part, I'm an introverted person, stay to myself. And when I was going through COVID, it was easy. I had people coming to me saying, "Oh gosh, Latoya, I don't know how you just staying inside the house. You can't go anywhere, do anything." And me, I was just fine with it. I was just, chilling.
Chilling.
Yeah. But then as time went on, for some reason, I started to get like really like feeling really lonely.
Hmm
And that was strange for me because, like I said, I'm a loner. I've always been a loner, done things by myself and so forth. So I started feeling like really lonely. I started feeling like out of whack, like like something was missing. And so I decided and said to myself, you know what? I really need to be able to figure out why my personal relationships, when it comes to, men and so forth, when it just never landed. It was always something that was tumultuous. So I started reading a lot of self-help books. And then I read so many self-help books to where I got overloaded with the self-help books that I was reading. I transitioned into love. I don't know how I transitioned into romance books, but it just happened. And so I'm starting to read these romance books. I started to read these romance books. And then one day it just hit me and I was like, why don't I write a book? And it's like it all just came to me. The title came to me. It wasn't something that I had to really search for. The concept, what I wanted, the book, the plot and everything, it just came to
Yes.
me. And so I decided to write this book, and I didn't know I was going to write a series initially. I just thought, okay, let me write this first book, It's Your Time, which the first book is, it takes you through Tahira, which is the main character, her journey. And it takes you through her journey of, she just can't seem to get it right when it comes to relationships with men. But then it also caused her to have to reflect on her own relationship with herself, her family,
Mhm.
her friends, and God. She had definitely had to bring God into the mix,
Yes.
and when things kind of like turned around for her. But it was just more so her focusing on, she wanted love so bad, she craved it from a man, that it forced her to crave that same type of love from herself, right? Get right with herself, and gain that self-love, that self-respect, that self-worth, that self-esteem, because all of that was shot. And it just takes you through that process, to whereas it's like everything started falling into place slowly but surely, right? The relationship with herself, her family, her friends, her job, her relationship with God, and then now this relationship with this man, or the start of a friendship and a relationship with a man. So yeah, it just takes you through that process with her, how it shows how she went from, and I don't like to use the word broken. It shows how she went
Mhm.
from a woman realizing that there are some things that she definitely needs to improve in her life, right? That she has to take that blame. She can't just point it at, oh gosh, these no good men and this, that, and the third. Like,
Right.
she has to take blame for that. And then to present, to where she just like did a that change.
Mhm.
What is it? I always get this mixed up. Is it a 360? That a
Oh,
360 or
180.
180?
Yes.
180. What she did, you can see how bad I'm at. I've always been. When she
Girl.
did this 180,
Mhm.
and then now she has to figure out what this looks like in a relationship with this love interest of hers.
Yeah, and there's something you said about, because that's relatable to me, where she was craving love from a man so bad that eventually that turned into her craving love for herself.
Yes.
Like, so seeing that in the book as well, where it's like at there's a transition kind of where
Yes.
she's kind of like craving that, like you said, from a partner. And then it comes to where there's like this growth of where she's like, I'm recognizing I have to choose me at some point, to be
Absolutely.
a better partner. Like, it'll
Yeah.
happen, but I have to choose me first. Um,
Absolutely. Because that's the
and so,
foundation of your life.
yes, that's the foundation, right? And so, when I was reading the book, something, because I've personally encountered this, being ghosted,
Mm.
and it was a horrible experience. But I feel like in today's times, people are kind of like, oh, it happens. Like, oh, well, get over it. Like, just kind of sweep it under the rug, like it's no big deal. But in your book, you really dug deep into, um, I don't want to say trauma, but kind of like the consequences that somebody like doing that to another person, what it can do to somebody and their self-worth and their self-value. So I guess the question here is kind of like, how were you able to like master the emotions of what it can feel like to be ghosted in your book?
So I think, like you had mentioned it, that I think we normalize the whole
Mhm.
ghosting thing, right? Whether you ghost
Yes.
somebody because you don't know how to, you don't want to hurt that person, you don't want to let them down, you don't know how to be able to say to someone like, hey, it's not working out. So, you ghost them, or you just ghost them because you like, I don't care. I'm going to ghost them and I'll never see them. I have to hear from them again. So I think we normalize that. I think for
Mhm.
me, I was able to dig into that because I've been ghosted before,
Okay.
and I was ghosted, and I felt like that's what led me to writing this book, because I was ghosted,
Mhm.
um, if I'm not mistaken, right around COVID, um, and it just hit me so hard, like literally hit me so hard. That was the first time that I've ever experienced anything like that, and I felt like I wanted to portray that in my book, because I
Yes.
think I wanted to show, people, readers, that with ghosting, like, even though for the person that's doing it, it may be just something one and done, but the person on
Right.
the other side it's not one and done. Like, it can really leave some lasting hurt. So that's
Mm,
why I was able to put that on paper and actually be able to like explain what that process is with ghosting, because I've experienced it. And if you've ever experienced it, and you know,
it's
it's
not.
not a nice feeling at all.
Especially when you really feeling the person and you like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
starting to envision a future with them, and then you just get ghosted. It's like,
Yes.
what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. And in the book, Tahira thought that he was the one. She thought that that
Yes.
person was the one, and that person that she thought that was the one ghosted her. So now she's like questioning everything. Like her discernment is totally off, because how she missed that. You know what I mean? And there were definitely red flags
Yes.
as she talked about it. So speaking of myself, when I look back on it, I'm like, how did I miss that? There were so
Hmm.
many red flags, but sometimes, and it plays out in the book, that sometimes you can become so infatuated with someone and think it's love, right? And then you
Yes.
overlook a lot of the red flags and the signs that are in your face, because it's like you don't want to rock the boat, right? So you just like,
Right.
oh, you hope that everything will fix itself, right? The problem will fix itself, but then you realize in the end you really created a bigger problem.
Girl, you captured it perfectly. The emotions in the book, I was like, and I told you this too. When I just started reading the book from the beginning, I had to put it aside for a second
Mm,
because there were certain emotions that I thought I was like, I haven't thought about what that felt like in a long time. And I'm like, oh, I remember what that pain was like. And so
yeah.
those emotions started coming. I'm like, let me put the book to the side. Let me pick this up tomorrow night or whatever. Because yeah, you captured that beautifully in your story.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so, yes, girl. So, another thing that I noticed in your book, and I really, really appreciate it, was how you weaved in therapy. And I feel that, especially in the Black community, a lot of times I feel like therapy is frowned upon. People will just tell you sometimes, like, I'm a believer in God as well. A lot of times people will be like, just pray about it and let God handle it. And it's like, yeah, he's going to handle it. But sometimes certain situations or where we are in our lives, we need that assistance from a therapist. And so I saw that through the book, and it to me it was beautifully done. So my question to you is, why was it important for you to have that in your book? Like, why did you feel the need to put those scenes in the novel or in the novella? And kind of like, what is your experience with that as well?
So I think like how you had mentioned, right, especially in a Black community, it's
Yeah.
therapy is really taboo. And if you even notice, when I was writing the book about Tahira going to see somebody, I referenced them as a counselor as opposed
Yes.
to a therapist. And that was also because of something that I experienced, to whereas
Mm.
when I was going through certain things, I kept saying to myself, okay, so I prayed, I go to church,
Right.
I have family and friends and things to talk about, the things that I'm experiencing, but
Mhm.
it's still something's missing, right? And then
Right.
I decided to how I actually talked myself into even speaking with someone is I had to change the name, because to me, hearing the word therapist is like
Mm.
a therapist, like a
Right.
female therapist, you know what I mean? I'm not crazy or anything like that, right? That's
Yeah.
how in my mind it was. So I said, okay, I'm going to seek a counselor. And it took a long time. That was like the last resort for me, because I said to myself, I'm out of options now, right? And so I wanted to put that in the book to show that Tahira did the same thing, right? Church, God, family, friends,
Yes.
but the same thing was happening. So when I referenced it as a counselor, it's like, so in Tahira's mind, it made
Mm.
it, I guess, less invasive, to where it's like, okay, I'm going to see a counselor, that sounds less, what's the word? It doesn't sound like medical
Yes.
terms and so
Clinical.
forth. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean? Oh, a counselor. And I think I did that to also show, because I wanted the readers to be able to, like, if you're thinking about going seeking counseling, you
Mm.
should. I wanted to show that Tahira had issues with it in the beginning, but look how she came out on the other end of things after going to counseling, and how much, help, support that it gave her, to where things started to look up. So I felt like I just needed to mention that, because sometimes we can be
Yes.
struggling and we just feel like, okay, well, I could do this, but I'm not going to do this because that's not my cup of tea. It
Hmm.
wasn't my cup of tea either. But I say, you know what? Let me give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? So that's
Yes.
the reason why I wanted to incorporate that in the book.
Yeah, I connected with that, like just reading a story, because I also kind of struggle with that too, of going to therapy. Like for what?
Mhm,
What kind
mhm.
I feel like some of us are wearing ingrained with that.
Right.
So I appreciated that you put that in the story because, like you said, a lot of people they're not comfortable with it. And you show through the story like what progress can come if you could commit to that process.
Absolutely.
Um, so I appreciated that, and and the story. So this, I'm kind of going to take a turn a little bit.
Okay.
So in the story, one thing without spoiling it, that came to me was kind of the concept of starting over, not just in the romantic sense. I saw that present itself. That resonated with me because a lot of times I feel like we're just kind of conditioned to just put up with any and everything. But Tahira, she wasn't about to do that, even if she was
Mm-mm.
gonna lose something,
Mm-mm.
money, whatever it was. So kind of did that naturally come into the story as well? Was that like planned to be in the story? Because I felt like that presented itself as a theme pretty consistently with the starting over.
I think just naturally happened. I
Okay.
didn't even really think too much about that, but I
Okay.
did say, I did want to display in the story that it's okay to start over.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people have a fear of starting over, especially when you're of a certain age,
Yes.
A lot of people have a fear of starting over, or they just don't want to put in the work to start over. So it just naturally happened to where that was like that. But I did want to show that it's okay to start over, especially when what's on the other side of you, other side for you is great. Like, it's okay to start over. Like, everything will
Mhm.
work itself out. And I think I mentioned that a lot in the story. Like, everything works out, even in life. You think about things
Yes.
that you've gone through prior to in the past, right? I think about things that I've gone through. And when I think about it, I say to myself, it always worked out, right?
Yes.
From being ghosted, or things happening with your, job, or personal
Mhm.
relationships, financial, anything, right? I look back and I said, it always worked out, and it always worked out for the better.
Yes. I cannot agree more. And
Yes.
there's this other question that I have because, and I just had to know this. So I think I had talked to you about this a little bit. Um, there's this part in your book where you kind of touch on the difference between belief and faith,
Mm,
and how a lot of times, or at least from my perspective, like in my initial journey, and my initial walk in faith, a lot of us were saying, "Oh, I believe in God. I believe in God," and we just leave it there. But in the story, you touch on, okay, there's a clear distinction between believing in God and having faith. And Tahira kind of walks that journey of what faith looks like for her. So when you were putting that into your story, like, is that some advice that you were given as well, in your walk in faith, that there is a difference in taking action with your belief and just believing?
um I didn't think about it till later on, like books later, to where I was
Mm.
like, that same message, like somebody told that to me,
Okay.
right? 'Cause initially, so that just came out also in the book, but when I was, writing about Tahira's faith, and
Mm.
then I took note of times where I was like, I believe, I believe, I believe, but when something
Yes.
happens, it's just like, I got angry, sad, cry, had these wealth of emotions, right? Versus when I really had faith in something, I had faith in something. So if
Mm,
something didn't go right, if something went wrong, if something didn't connect, I still had that faith, and you still had those emotions, but I still knew that, okay, this happened, but I'm
mm,
going to get to where it is that I'm trying to go, whatever the situation was. So I think I tied that into the book when I started talking about faith and looking back on Tahira's journey, saying like, okay, Tahira believes, and she believes that this will happen, and she believes in God and so forth, but does she really have that faith, right? Because faith is knowing that, okay, you can't see what it is that's going to happen, but you
yes.
just know it will happen. You don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but you have faith and you just know it will happen. Versus when you believe something, you're like, okay, I believe this to happen, and then it doesn't come to pass. And then you're like, oh man, this is never going to happen, or why, what I mean? So like you said,
Yes.
a clear distinction between the two. And I wanted to put that in the book for the readers to get, like, it's one thing to believe, but do you really have faith? Is your faith strong enough
Yes.
to withhold and know that what it is that you want, what it is that you're asking for, it will come to pass? It may not come to pass when you want it to come to pass, but it will come to
That
pass
will.
in God's perfect time.
Hmm.
I think that's what a lot of us, struggle with at times in our life, knowing, like, you know, just continuing to have that faith, especially when you have to walk that walk, and you say things like, oh well, it's been a year, it's been 5 years, and this hasn't
Girl.
happened, so just being
Yes.
able to continue to have that faith. I struggle with that now, to this day, but I still know that, and I have to keep this in the back of my mind, that my faith, it can't waver. Like I have to just continue to walk that walk and know that what God has for me, it will come to pass.
And that's what was so important to me of your story is it's like, just like you said, sometimes it's like, when is this going to happen?
Hmm.
I've been waiting, Lord, for a year. I've been waiting. There's like no expiration date on the waiting sometimes. And
Yes.
it's like sometimes it's going to be that waiting season. We don't know how long that's going to take. But at
Yes.
the end of it, you will be rewarded if you keep your faith. And so
Absolutely.
I really appreciated how you were able to put that in your story and how Tahira's walk. It was inspiring to me because, like you said, sometimes I still have those moments where I'm like, Lord, I've been waiting on this. I've been praying for this, and it's just it's taking its sweet time, Lord. What's going on?
Absolutely.
So,
And it, like I said, it takes time, so I don't want anyone to be discouraged,
mhm,
and think that, okay, because this time frame has passed, like, oh, it's not gonna happen. Like, you still
yes,
have to continue that faith, and it's hard. It's
so
really,
hard.
really, really hard, but you just have to know, if you really have faith, that you know it's going to happen. You just don't know when, but it's going to happen. So I just wanted to convey that message to my readers, like, don't get discouraged. There's
Mhm.
what you ask for, what you want, what you prayed for. God, he can't lie. So
Those
it
deliver.
will happen. But
Yes.
it's just the timing part of it that I think is difficult part for everyone, because again, time, and that's what, in my book, from the book cover, time is to
Mhm.
show that time is the hardest thing. When you have to wait on something, time is the hardest thing. And that was hard for Tahira as well. Time, the seasons passing and so forth, like that.
Mhm. And I can I just shout out, I'm sorry, the book cover because this is gorgeous. And I told you, I'm like, I don't know how you came up with this concept, but it went perfectly, like with the time concept and love, and it's beautiful.
I think
So
so too. Thank you. I think so too. The concept, like time, just immediately, I knew that I wanted this book to, the concept of time. And then I have an uncle who, he just draws so well. And
wow.
I told him what my concept, what I wanted. He sketched that out and so forth. And then I sent that over to my graphic designer. And then that's
Ooh,
how it came about. I wanted it to be simple, but I still wanted it to make a statement, if that makes
yes.
sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I know we're at the hour mark, but I do have a couple more questions.
Okay.
So I adored the relationship between Tahira and Kaden. And I just felt like, in my opinion, they were a great match. Wasn't imperfect? Yes. But they still had a really good connection. And so my question with this is, I think I started to see, at least like as I was reading along, not to spoil anything, Kaden wasn't perfect. Tahira had a vision in her mind of what she wanted her partner to be,
She
and
did.
he didn't embody that completely, but he was still good for her. So my question to you is, what advice can you give to women that are out here looking to date, wanting to find their person, and they may find a good match, but it's not exactly what they envision? What advice would you give to them?
I think the first thing is, and I feel like we can all be guilty of this. We put so much emphasis on the superficial, like how tall someone is, their
Mm-hmm.
features, right? The job that they have, education, right? All of these things, right? And I'm not knocking that and saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think that should be the first thing that you look for out the gate when
Right.
it comes to selecting a partner, right? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
more so, the internal things. Is this person kind? Is this person respectful to you, right? Is this person God fearing? Is this person someone that if y'all weren't in a relationship, could you see yourself being friends with this person first? Because if you
Ooh,
can't see yourself being friends with someone, then I don't see how you can see yourself being in a relationship with them, right? Because if I look at somebody
yes.
like I can't see I wouldn't even want to be friends with you. Well, why would I want to date you and be in a relationship with you? Right. So I think those things should take precedence, right? How this person
Yes.
treats their family, their kids, the character of that person, right? And then all
Mm-hmm.
those superficial things. I'm not saying you can't like what you like and have those preferences, but I just don't feel like those should be key indicators of if this is a person that you should date, because I feel like that's where discernment comes in, right? So I
Yes.
think that would be my advice. The superficial stuff, that should all come after the fact, but you should be vetting somebody based off of who they are to their core.
And I love you said that. Vet them. Vet them on their core
Yeah,
beliefs, their values, not what they look like.
right,
Because a man or woman, whatever, if it's a man looking for a woman or vice versa, like they may come packaged in this beautiful exterior and be completely wrong for you. Or they may come
absolutely,
packaged, they may not be 6 feet tall, tall, dark, and handsome. But your king may be 5'7",
right,
but don't count him out if he has
right.
all of the other things that are important. Um,
Absolutely. Who wants a man that's educated, tall, got a nice body? He has no integrity. Like that's a
Come
recipe for,
on.
so
Yes.
I just think we should worry less about what somebody looks like, their stature, their build, and more so about, what somebody's beliefs are. If this person is respectful, if this person, is going to treat you the way you deserve to be, treated, not the way they
Yes.
treat you.
Yes. All of that. And I think in the book, come on, you explored that, and I appreciated that. Um, and so I'm gonna ask you that question back as well. Is there anything in the works? What should we be looking forward to?
I don't have anything. Well, I don't want to say I don't have anything in the works, meaning like, okay, I have my website, which
Okay.
is beautiful toya.com, BEYOUTIFULTOYA, where it's a website where you can go on there to get things like self-love affirmation, book accessories. Like I have bookmarks, I have a
Mm.
spiritual journey, a journal on there. I have a ebook that I don't remember the name of my ebook at this moment. I have a lot of cool things on there on the website. I don't have anything as far as right now for my next book.
Right.
I'm still waiting for that to come to me. Of course, it's going to be about love and romance. Anything that I write about is always going to be about love and romance in some capacity. But I just don't know. I don't have anything in the works for that right now. I'm hoping more comes to me because I'm getting that itch and I really want to start back
Yes.
writing again. So I think for right now, I am just working on gaining visibility and really putting out there my series for people to read it, give me their feedback, their thoughts, write reviews on it, and so forth. Um, and that nature. So I think that's what I'm really focused on right now is just gaining that visibility for my series, doing more collaborations with dope authors such as yourself, Diamond, and yeah, and just really just trying to gain visibility on all my social media platforms, which I mentioned I have my website,
Yes.
IG, same thing, it's Beautiful Toya. TikTok, same thing, Beautiful Toya. And Facebook, it's Latoya E. Dobson.
Latoya E. Dobson for Facebook. Got it. Okay. Well, I just have to say, I mean, you have 3 books in a series. So, focusing on visibility now, that's a really good place to be. Um, and I really, really appreciate this collaboration. Like, I feel like also you're a very dope author. You talk realness in your books. And there's no filter here.
Right.
Like you just say it how it is. Like you said with this first one here, like it's kind of diary like. I feel like I really do feel like I'm reading someone's diary. Seriously.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yes, so I appreciate that. And y'all can also find me right here on YouTube and also on Instagram. That's where I'm mostly at. I'm kind of dabbling a little bit on Threads. So my name on there is author Diamond Vickii. And then my Facebook is Diamond Victoria.
And I
So
forgot about that since you just mentioned that. My YouTube, same thing, is
yes.
Toya as well. I have to get better with that. Like I have one video in there, so I really got to get better with
Gotta
putting
get
out.
them rolling out, Toya.
We have, but Diamond, one thing that I wanted because I just thought about this, and
Mhm.
if you think of something off the whim, um, but what is something related to love, like a message that you'd want to put out there to readers, whether that be a quote,
Mm.
I don't know, a word, anything that just comes to mind to leave the readers, the audience with related to the theme of love.
The first thing that comes to me, so I went through a period of time where I had to get to know myself again after that long-term relationship, taking myself on dates, getting to know who is Diamond. So a note that I would have about love is before you go searching for love outside of yourself, search within yourself first. Figure out who you are. Because a lot of us, we're trying to chase after the concept of what love is. We're trying to chase after that fantasy. And then sometimes we can get in it and then we realize, oh, this is not even what I want. Or we're staying for the dream and not truly because we love that person. So get to know yourself first, get to love yourself first, and understand that it's okay to be alone for a period of time, however long that's like. Love yourself. Be your best friend. Love your company, your own company, before you're searching and going after that for somebody else and to be with somebody else.
I love that. I love that. Because I feel like I mentioned, self-love is a foundation. So
Yes.
everything that you just mentioned. For me, I do a lot of, I'm always trying to like come up with like quotes and stuff, or just like
Mhm.
find, quotes about love, specifically self-love. So I think we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the live that when you truly love yourself, it makes it easier to
Mhm.
love others, right? Family,
Yes.
partners, etc., right? Because again, that is the foundation. And then I feel like once you love yourself um, properly, no one could. So, how does a quote go? Once you love yourself, I forgot the quote.
Oh no, we got to
I,
bring it back.
it was just in my mind, and I literally forgot the quote. But it was a quote. I created the quote too, and I for the life of me,
Hey,
it will come back to me. But
I will.
yeah, just like self love is the foundation, and so that will allow you to be able to love in all areas of your life easily once you've actually learned how to love yourself.
I love that so much. And then I also wanted to say too, I think this was in the beginning of my book. Okay, so because I know we speak heavily on self love,
Mhm.
but I also, for another message I would have too on the opposite ends, not to contradict, but needing love doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. So
Mm,
it's natural for us to crave that.
yes,
And it's natural for us to need that in our lives. So within ourselves and with other people and that connection, that doesn't make you weak.
absolutely.
So
I love that because you know you can want love, right? We're all human,
yes,
like you said, but it's when it comes from an unhealthy place to whereas if you feel like if you don't have someone to love, then you get to this place of desperation and
yes,
your discernment is off and the people that you pick are not right for you and so forth, right? Because you don't have that within yourself. So I love that you mentioned that.
yes. And I hope that quote comes to you, so we can
Yes,
pin it for the comments for new
yes.
people coming in, that catch alive. But yes,
If you love yourself right, no one can ever love you wrong.
oh,
So
oh, I'm glad that came to you.
yeah, so you are the one, you dictate that, right? No one could love
Yes.
you wrong if you don't allow it. But if you love yourself right, no one would love you wrong because you know what that looks like, right? You know what healthy,
Mm.
you know what self-respect and all of those things are. So if you love yourself right, no one could ever love you wrong.
Oh my goodness. I love now. Oh my God. I don't even know what to follow up with with that. If you love yourself right, nobody could love you wrong.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you, Diamond. We had some y'all technical difficulties today.
Yes.
We pivoted and we did it. We here. So yeah, and I'm just hoping that we have more collaborations like this because
Absolutely.
Diamond still has her book Emerald, and then I have two other books from my
That's right.
series. Definitely more collaborations in the future, Diamond. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, girl. This has been amazing. And I'll be
Yes.
reading your second book. I'm starting it this week. So
Getting your first I get it from
yes, Emerald.
you.
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining.